Do you know what 12 years of friendship weighs? It weighs exactly 21 grams. That's how much this key weighs. I know because I weighed it. At 3 a.m. On my kitchen scale. Like a crazy person. This key used to open the door to 3B. The apartment on Clover Street. Rex's apartment. Our apartment. I've carried this key on my ring every single day since I was 19 years old. Through 3 jobs, 2 funerals, 1 pandemic, and 1,000 nights where I couldn't sleep and he was the only person I could call. And today I took it off the ring because yesterday I found out that Rex, my brother in every way but blood, has been systematically dismantling my life behind my back for the last 8 months. And the worst part? The part that makes me want to throw up every time I think about it? I handed him the tools to do it. I gave him the map to my own destruction because I trusted him with every locked door in my soul. This is not a fiction. This is not a script. This is the autopsy of a friendship. And I'm going to tell you everything. Let me take you back. Back to before the key felt like a lie. I need you to understand who Rex was. Because the man I'm going to describe at the end of this story, he's a stranger wearing the skin of the boy I loved like a brother. I met Rex when we were both 17. I was the new kid, mid-semester, which is social suicide. I was sitting alone in the cafeteria, trying to make myself invisible, reading a worn-out copy of Dune. And this kid, this absolute force of nature, just plops down across from me, slams his tray down so hard his chocolate milk nearly explodes, and says, "Okay, I've seen you reading that for 3 days. Are you actually enjoying it, or are you just trying to look intellectual?" That was Rex. No filter. No social grace. Just a raw, unfiltered curiosity about people. He had this mess of sandy brown hair that never laid flat, and these bright green eyes that made you feel like you were the only interesting thing in a boring world. He was loud where I was quiet. He was reckless where I was careful. We made no sense on paper. But he sat down, and he just never left. We built a friendship on late nights and shared headphones. We'd lie on the floor of his parents' basement, listening to albums start to finish, not talking, just feeling the same thing at the same time. He was the first person I ever told about my dad leaving. I was the first person he told about the panic attacks he got before exams. We were each other's vaults. After college, we got the apartment. 3B, Clover Street. It was a dump. Let me be honest. The radiator sounded like a gremlin with a hammer, and the bathroom tile was this shade of pink that should be illegal. But Rex could make anything feel like an adventure. He painted the living room sunset orange because he said we deserved to live inside a permanent golden hour. He built the bookshelves himself. They were crooked. Gloriously, authentically crooked. I remember the night he gave me this key. We had just finished hauling that ugly brown couch up 3 flights of stairs. We were drenched in sweat, collapsed on the floor, drinking cheap beer out of the can. He tossed me this key. It bounced off my chest and landed in my lap. "Don't lose it," he said, grinning. "That's the key to the kingdom, Francis. Mi casa es su casa. Forever." I put it on my keychain right then. And I believed him. Forever. He had this thing he'd do. Whenever he was truly, deeply happy, he'd stop whatever he was doing and just look at me and say, "We are doing it, right? We are actually doing it. We are surviving." And I'd always say back, "We are surviving, Rex." God, I can still hear his voice when I say that. We had a project. Our opus. We were building an indie video game. I wrote the narrative. It is a story about a lighthouse keeper who discovers the light is actually a beacon for lost memories. Rex did all the art and the coding. He was a genius with pixels. He could make a 2D sprite feel like it had a soul. We called it the Keeper's Log. It was our baby. We worked on it for 3 years. Nights, weekends, holidays. We bled into that code. I was so proud of it. I was so proud of us. That was my first mistake. Pride. It blinds you to the cracks in the foundation. Looking back now, the signs were there. They were small, like hairline fractures in a windshield. You don't see them until the whole thing shatters in your face. Rex had a tell. I mentioned it earlier, but I didn't know it was a tell then. When Rex was anxious, or lying, or hiding something, he would drum his fingers. A rapid, staccato rhythm. Tap, tap tap, tap, on the table. on his thigh, on the steering wheel. About a year ago, the drumming became constant. At first, I thought it was just stress. We were both pushing hard on the keeper's log. We had a deadline for a major indie showcase, which was the Horizon Games Festival. Getting in would change our lives. Investors, publishers, the works. It was everything we'd worked for. Then Vanessa entered the picture. Vanessa was a freelance graphic designer Rex met on a forum. She was sharp, ambitious. She had this sleek, minimalist aesthetic that was the complete opposite of Rex's warm and messy style. She wore all black, had severe bangs, and a laugh that sounded like it was being rationed. I didn't dislike her. I want to make that clear. She was smart. She was talented. And she looked at Rex like he was a product she could optimize. I thought maybe that's what he needed. Someone to organize the chaos. But the drumming got worse. And the cancellations started. Text like, "Can't work tonight, man, migraine." No emoji. Rex always used the skull emoji when he was sick. Sometimes it would be, "Gotta help Vanessa with a client thing" text. Very vague. I started working on the keeper's log alone in the apartment. At 2 a.m. The golden hour paint on the walls felt like a mockery. The silence where his laugh used to be was deafening. I'd sit on my side of the ugly brown couch, laptop open, and I'd wait. And he wouldn't come home. I told myself I was being paranoid. He's just busy. He's in love. Give him space. Don't be the needy friend. I wish I had been needier. I wish I had screamed and demanded to know where he was. Because while I was sitting in our sanctuary, guarding our dream, he was across town, selling it to someone else. This is the part of the story where the hook in my chest gets set. It was a Thursday. The sky was that bruised purple color, threatening a storm that wouldn't break. I was at the Horizon Games Festival website, refreshing the accepted entries page obsessively. The list was supposed to go live at noon. It went live at 11:58 a.m. I scrolled down. My finger on the trackpad was shaking. I saw the letter K. The keeper's log. My heart soared. We did it. We got in. Then I saw the names: developer, Rex Allen and Vanessa Croft, narrative design, Vanessa Croft. My name wasn't on it. My story wasn't credited. The narrative design, which was my lighthouse, my memories, and my words, was under her name. Vanessa. She had taken my place. And Rex. Rex had let her. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the laptop. I just sat there. I felt the hook. That physical sensation I described. It's not a metaphor. It's a cold, hard yank in the center of your being. Everything you thought was solid turns to smoke. I must have sat there for 2 hours, just staring at the screen. The rain finally came. It hammered against the bay window. The golden room turned grey. I heard the key in the lock. His key. The twin to the one on my ring. The door opened. Rex walked in. He was soaked. His sandy hair was plastered to his forehead. He saw me sitting on the couch, laptop open, screen facing him, and his fingers were drumming against his wet jeans. Tap, 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 tap. Francis. His voice was thin. Scared. I didn't look at him. I looked at the wall. At the crooked bookshelf he built. At the sunset orange paint. How long? My voice was a stranger's. Flat and dead. He didn't answer. How long? Rex. 8 months. He whispered. The festival submission was 8 months ago. Vanessa said. She said the story needed a stronger female voice to appeal to the judges. She said we could change it back later. She said you'd understand. I finally looked at him. Understand? You erased me from my own creation. You let another woman put her name on my soul. And you didn't tell me for 8 months. You looked me in the eyes every day for 8 months and you drummed your fingers and you lied. He took a step forward. I was going to tell you. I was just trying to find the right time. I didn't want to hurt you. I stood up. The laptop slid off my knees onto the couch cushion. You didn't want to hurt me? Rex, you didn't just hurt me. You amputated me. You cut me out of the picture and hoped I wouldn't notice the scar. The rain was a roar now. The room was so dark. I was scared, okay. His voice cracked. The drumming stopped. I was scared that the keeper's log wasn't good enough. That I wasn't good enough. Vanessa. She's connected. She knows people at the festival. She said this was the only way to guarantee we got in. I thought if we just got the exposure, we could fix the credits later. I did it for us. I walked over to the crooked bookshelf. I ran my finger along the dusty wood. He built this. He built this with his hands. No, Rex. You did it for you. Because you were afraid. And instead of trusting me, the person who has had your back since we were 17, you trusted a woman you met on a forum 8 months ago. I turned to face him. I pulled my keychain out of my pocket. I fumbled with the ring, my hands trembling with a rage that was finally breaking through the shock. I worked the brass key off the ring. It took forever. The metal was stubborn, like the memory of the friendship didn't want to let go. I held the key up. 21 grams. I dropped it. It hit the hardwood floor with a small, insignificant tick. But in that silent apartment, with the rain crying against the glass, it sounded like a gunshot. Goodbye, Rex. I walked past him. He reached out, his hand brushing my arm. Francis, please, don't. We can fix this. You're my compass. You always have been. I stopped at the door. I didn't turn around. I couldn't look at him again or I would shatter. A compass only works if the person holding it wants to find their way home. You're lost, Rex, and I can't find you anymore. I opened the door and walked out into the rain. I didn't have a coat. I didn't care. The water washed over me, cold and clarifying. I walked 7 blocks to the train station. I counted every step. That was a year ago. I live in a studio apartment now. It's small. It's clean. The walls are white. There is no sunset orange. There are no crooked bookshelves. There is no key on my ring. The Keeper's Log won the Horizon Games Festival. Rex Allen and Vanessa Croft. They got a publishing deal. The game came out 6 months ago. It has stellar reviews. People love the haunting, melancholic narrative. I read one review that said, "The writing feels like a lost memory, aching and beautiful." That's my writing. That's my ache. And the world thinks it's hers. I didn't play the game. I can't. I saw a screenshot once, on social media. The lighthouse. The beam of light cutting through the fog. Rex's art was as beautiful as ever. It made me physically ill. I grieved, you know. I grieved like he had died. Because in a way, he did. The Rex I knew, the boy who slammed his tray down and asked me about June, the man who painted a room sunset orange so we could live in a permanent memory, that person is gone. Or maybe he never existed. Maybe I just saw what I wanted to see. And that's the cruelest part of betrayal. It doesn't just break your trust in the other person. It breaks your trust in yourself. It makes you question your own judgment. If I couldn't see this coming, if I missed the drumming fingers, what else am I missing? Who else is lying to me right now? That's the weight. That's heavier than 21 grams. It's the weight of doubting every kind word, every friendly gesture, every promise. Betrayal is a poison that seeps backward through time and stains every good memory you have. I still have it. The key. I couldn't throw it away. It's sitting here on this table, a monument to 12 years of my life. A paperweight for a chapter that's over. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Maybe I'll melt it down. Maybe I'll throw it in the river. Maybe I'll just keep it as a reminder that locks can be changed, and that's okay. You're allowed to change the locks. If you're watching this, and you've been betrayed by someone you love, I don't have a happy ending for you. I can't tell you it gets better overnight. I can't tell you that revenge feels good, because I didn't take any. I just walked away. And some days, walking away feels like losing. But other days it feels like the only way to save yourself. Rex emailed me. Last week. Subject line, "The lighthouse is dark." I haven't opened it. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. The story of Francis and Rex is over. But the story of me, the story of who I am without him, that's just beginning. And I think I'm ready to start writing that one myself. I told you at the beginning that this was the autopsy of a friendship. And it was. I cut it open. I examined every wound. I showed you the rot and the scar tissue, but an autopsy only tells you how something died. It doesn't tell you how to live again. That part took me a long time. After I walked out of that apartment, I was furious. Not just at Rex. At God. I was angry at God for letting this happen. I had prayed over that friendship. I had thanked him for Rex. I truly believed that God had placed him in my life. So when it all collapsed, I felt like either God had made a mistake, or I was a fool for trusting him. I spent months in that white apartment, alone. No sunset orange. No crooked bookshelves. Just silence and the kind of prayers that aren't really prayers, just accusations thrown at the ceiling. And then one night, I was reading scripture. Not because I wanted to, because I had nothing else. And I stumbled on a verse I'd read 100 times but never felt until that moment. Psalm 55 verses 12 to 14. If an enemy were insulting me, I could endure it. If a foe were rising against me, I could hide. But it is you, a man like myself, my companion, my close friend, with whom I once enjoyed sweet fellowship at the house of God, as we walked about among the worshippers. King David wrote that 3,000 years ago. He knew the specific razor-edge pain of being betrayed not by an enemy, but by a brother, the one who walked with him in the house of God, the one who shared sweet fellowship. I realized in that moment, God was not surprised by my pain. He didn't cause it, but he understood it. Jesus himself was betrayed by Judas, one of the 12, a man he washed the feet of, a man he called friend. Matthew 26 verse 50. Jesus looked at Judas in the garden, knowing what was about to happen, and said, "Friend, do what you came for." Friend. He still used the word friend. That broke me, in the best way, because I realized that my inability to forgive Rex wasn't about Rex anymore. It was about me. It was a chain I was wrapping around my own wrists, and I was blaming him for the weight. See, the world will tell you that forgiveness means pretending it never happened. That's not biblical forgiveness. Biblical forgiveness is not pretending the wound isn't real. It's surrendering the right to revenge into God's hands. Romans 12:19 says, "Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, 'It is mine to avenge, I will repay,' says the Lord." I don't need to balance the scales. I don't need to destroy Rex's reputation the way he destroyed my trust. I don't need to write a public expose or make him pay. That's not my job. That's God's. And either he is just, and he will handle it, or he is merciful, and he will redeem Rex. Either way, it's not my burden to carry anymore. There's another verse. It's the one that finally unlocked the cage I'd built for myself. Colossians 3 verse 13. Bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. That's the gut punch. Because how did Christ forgive me? While I was still a sinner. While I was still in the wrong. He didn't wait for my apology to be perfectly worded. He didn't wait for me to earn it back. He stretched out his arms on a cross and said, "Father, forgive them." I am the forgiven. How dare I be the unforgiving? So here's where I am now. I haven't opened Rex's email yet. The lighthouse is dark. I know what it means. The lighthouse in our game was a beacon for lost memories. A light to guide the wandering home. He's telling me he's lost. He's telling me his light is out. I'm going to reply. Not because he deserves it. Not because the wound isn't real. But because I serve a God who specializes in redemption. And if he can take a cross which is an instrument of torture and betrayal and turn it into the symbol of eternal hope, then he can take my 21 grams of brass and a shattered friendship and make something new. Not the same as before. It will never be the same. But maybe something redeemed. Something where the scar remains but the infection is gone. If you're watching this, and you've been betrayed, I see you. God sees you. The betrayal was not part of his plan, but your healing is. You don't have to fake forgiveness. You don't have to pretend it's okay. Just lay it down. Every day if you have to. Lay down the anger. Lay down the debt. And let the scales belong to the only judge who sees the full picture. Betrayal ends a chapter. It doesn't end the book. The author is still writing, the lighthouse is dark, but maybe it's time to relight it. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Romans 8 verse 28. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more true life stories.